What's happening? Welcome to Wong Notes Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Wong. Today, I'm very excited because on the show, we have the incredible Mike Stern. Now, Mike Stern is one of those cats who was an originator of the rock and jazz thing in one. And I will credit him for being kind of the start of a new era of a type of cat who, how do I put it? So to me, when I look back on players who did jazz and rock, you had the jazz cats who had all the vocabulary, all the language, but they didn't really have that rock energy or tone. And then you look at a lot of rock players that had all that energy and angst, and they had the tone, but they didn't have the vocabulary. They didn't have the language and the lines. Mike Stern, to me, is one of the first cats that really had both. The tone, the touch, the energy, had all of the good parts of rock music and hard rock music, but he had all the language, the harmonic understanding, the voicings, the lines of a jazz player. So really, to me, he was a true beginning of an era. And I know somebody's going to fight me in the comments or something. Fine, please do. Tell me what you think. But I think really I would credit him for being one of the first pillars of that sort of thing. So it is very fun to have him on the show. Incredible player, musician, writer, and all around just really nice dude. I dig Mike Stern. I've listened to his music since I was a kid. I played compositions of his when I was in high school, in college, and still really enjoy listening to his music. So I'm excited to have him on the show today. As a matter of fact, I was at the George Benson guitar camp, and many of us were hanging out one night and we're just raving about Mike Stern, this exact stuff that I'm talking about. That's why it's kind of on the forefront of my mind. But the camp was amazing. If you're into wanting to go to a camp to learn about guitar, to learn about rhythm sections, I've actually got a camp coming up in August, the Syncopated Summer Camp. And it's going to be 4 days and nights of masterclasses, jam sessions in Nashville, Tennessee at the Lowe's Hotel. And it's a rhythm section thing. So drums, bass, guitar, keys, other instruments are welcome as well. But we're going to have a bunch of masterclasses and a stacked lineup of instructors. Honestly, it's insane. I can't believe it. So if you're interested, go check that out. It's in August. It's going to be an absolute blast. I really hope to see you there. We did it last year, and it was so much fun, and it was really fulfilling for all of us. And I know that many of the campers just had the time of their lives. And after doing it for 1 year, I also have learned a few things. So I'm able to continue to just make it better. And I truly mean it when I say it's going to be a wonderful experience and a lot of learning and jamming. So I'm excited to even for just watching the other instructors' lessons. So I hope to see you there. Check it out, CoryWongCamp.com. You can check it out there. Anyways, enough about that. Here's my conversation with Mike Stern. Hey, you guys know about DistroKid yet? If you are an artist, musician, somebody who's trying to get your music on Spotify, Apple Music, all of those things, DistroKid is a digital distributor that can get your music on all of those platforms. It's the easiest, fastest way to do so, with accounts even just starting at $19.99 a year per artist. So for me, I have several albums out. I just pay one amount for the year. For all the Cory Wong albums, I just pay one amount, and DistroKid takes 0% royalty. 100% of the royalties come straight to me. Or you use their Teams feature where you can dedicate a certain percentage to one member of your band, a certain percentage to the other, or one of your collaborators. I do this sort of thing. It works amazing. DistroKid is who I use for my albums, and it has worked great for me. The stuff gets up there fast. They have a smart ISRC thing. I don't have to worry about coming up with my own codes, registering a lot of the stuff. They just have that. And they also have these really cool design tools. If you are not very design savvy, they'll help you come up with assets for social media and other things to help promote your album. And if you want to use them, you can use my VIP code. Just go distrokid.com/VIP/Cory Wong and you get 30% off. How about that? Check them out, DistroKid. All right, let's hit this episode. Well, let's dive right into it. Thanks for joining us, man. It's so great to have you on the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Talk to me about what brought you to New York and what the New York scene was like when you first moved there, like the music scene and kind of how you got involved in your circle.
Well, the reason I moved there, I was in Boston before then, kind of for a couple of different reasons, not wanting to move to New York. I was kind of scared to get messed up a little bit because I was battling with some stuff back in those days, you know.
Sure.
But Bill, you know, there was an offer that I couldn't refuse. Bill Evans, the saxophone player, you know, asked me to play with Miles's band, and before I actually moved to New York, I guess it was early, maybe 1980 or the end of the year before, 79. I was playing with Billy Cobham at the bar in New York. There's a cool club that is gone now. There was a lot of cool clubs like that, very eclectic. You know, so they would have rock, they'd have jazz, they'd have everything, you know. But I was playing the bar with Billy Cobham, and Bill Evans called me on the payphone at the club, and he said, "Guess who I'm bringing down?" Because he'd already asked me to, you know, just said it's a possibility that Miles was looking for another guitar player because it wasn't working out great with the original guitar player that was first starting with Miles when Miles was just coming back from retirement.
Sure.
He had a great guitar player, but it wasn't. So Miles, he brought Miles down to where I was playing with Billy Cobham at the bottom line, and you know that night Miles really liked it, so he hired me kind of on the spot.
Wow.
And actually, he kind of called Billy off the stage. All of a sudden, there was no drummer, and it was Miles was in the back, and he said, "Tell your guitar player to be at Studio B tomorrow." Columbia Records, you know, that kind of thing. So I had to be there around 6 o'clock, and he wanted me to play over a bunch of stuff. And it was done already. I said, "Man, I don't hear that. I don't want to just overdub for no reason. It sounds really good the way it is." Okay. So then the following week, we did a live cut that made it on the record. Actually, ended up being the first tune. It's called Fat Time.
Yeah.
Which... you know, there's a long guitar solo on that, and Miles really dug it. He was a big guitar fan.
Yeah.
And so he really dug the solo. So he called it, that was my nickname at that time. That's what he used to call me, Fat Time. He liked my time feel, and and I was heavy at the same time, so he called Fat Time. So actually, when I lost weight at some point, when I actually, you know, I played with Miles for about 2 or 3 years, and then I played with Jocko for a while. Then I played with Sanborn and Dave Sanborn, and then came back. Miles called me back to the band because I had cleaned up at that point,
sure.
and I lost weight. So he said, "No more Fat Time." Okay. He just called me Time for so. But you know, I played for another, you know, a few months after when I got hired back. And anyway, it was a great experience. And New York in those days was, you know, my take on New York was kind of influenced a lot by all that crazy stuff I was doing.
Yeah.
Me and Joe and a whole bunch of other people were just drinking too much and getting high too much, this and that. And a lot of people in New York were doing that at the time. And I think actually Michael Brecker, who had been had a lot of experience with all that, got sober ahead of a bunch of people, and kind of everybody was kind of bottoming out on a lot of that stuff. So he kind of inspired a lot of people to give sobriety a try, you know, and it was great. I mean, he really, really helped a lot of people just by his turn, you know, just by him getting sober and staying that way, and you know, and the way he did it, and going to meetings, all that stuff. And New York has always been just so much music. It had more in those days, more clubs in those days, every other place. But you know, where there's maybe 2 jazz clubs or 3 jazz clubs and some some cities, and maybe now it's only, or, maybe 5 or something. And now it's only 3. And New York has still got 30 instead of, I mean, in its heyday, I think Gunther Schuller once told me he was at a recording I did with the WDR big band in Germany. And Gunther Schuller said there used to be 28 jazz clubs in New York City. I mean, that's back in those days.
Yeah.
That was in the late 50s, early 60s, and around that time that was kind of the end of, or the beginning of the end of jazz being really the pop music of the day.
Sure.
Okay, all those guys that we love, all those beboppers, were playing 24/7. I mean, they were just playing all the time. It was from what he told me, this is, I was at the 80s, everything had changed up. And in the early 60s or 50s, and maybe even the 40s, it was, it was tons of jazz, and all those guys were playing all the time. It was very uncommon for people to only have one night at a club. Most of the time, they would do like a week,
Yeah, it's incredible to read a lot of those autobiographies of the jazz legends of that time, just talking about. But that's why I'm curious from your perspective on a lot of that, like that era. I got to ask Rosenwinkel about the late 90s and early 2000s, and it's like I'm kind of piecing together a lot of the jazz lineage in New York City in my brain, and a lot of it makes so much sense. It's a very much a through line. It's
true, really. I see what you're saying. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Miles, up until you were playing, there was only a few people that really played guitar with Miles. The majority of the records that are out there of Miles and a lot of his records as a band leader didn't involve guitar. And I'm wondering what you think, because, we're a guitar podcast. We're both guitar players here. I'm wondering what you think it was. I mean, obviously the jazz tradition didn't have guitar in the way that its current form is, or whatever. It wasn't as much a part of the thing in that combo sense, but I'm wondering how you interpret what Miles was looking for out of the instrument itself, and then what you think he was looking for from you on the instrument.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea. No, it's not true. He was, he was a big fan of Hendrix.
Yeah.
So even when McLaughlin was playing with him for years, he was doing more, rock and stuff. I mean, John wasn't as maybe he did it in a different way than me.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up like a lot of kids, growing up, with taking up guitar and listening to, Hendrix and Jeff Beck, and in my case, I was listening to a lot of soul music too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in DC, and just kind of playing off the records, kind of learning from the records. And so that was very much part of my playing. And so when Miles heard me, he really liked that aspect, that I could rock, and there was a lot of bebop in my playing, because I checked that out. I got really into, my mom used to play a lot of jazz records around the house. So I was checking out, Hendrix and Jeff Beck and all the blues players, B.B. King and Albert King and all that. And I used to do that by ear and just play along with the records. And then I took some of my Mom, I really liked the feel of jazz that she was playing these records. So I took some of those to my room and I got lost right away. So that's when I started kind of getting into jazz. And the more I got into it, the more I loved it. So even though it was difficult, and although just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's better to me. Sometimes the simplest stuff, just a great groove, is my favorite kind of music. But certainly wanted to learn more about jazz. So I got into it. I studied, I started learning how to read. I didn't know any of that stuff. Then I went to Berkeley, which really helped. I didn't last the whole time, but all that stuff was useful to me. And I just pursued it like crazy and got more and more fluent in that language, kind of.
You brought up Jocko, and
Yeah.
between your creativity, Jocko's creativity, I mean, wow, I wish I could have seen that ensemble live. I'm wondering, when you're working with people like that, and also for yourself, but I'm especially curious about with Jocko when you were playing. Jocko, obviously, we've heard so much about what his personality was like and what an interesting character he was, both on and off the instrument. I'm wondering, because also there was a little bit of talk on the internet over the last couple of years about how much of Jocko's stuff was scripted, or like, did he plan things out? I'm curious from your perspective, when you guys were playing together, what felt like it was completely in the moment and what felt a little more calculated?
I think most of it was there was a lot in the moment, a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, we had songs that we would play, and then he would stretch out and play solos that were just improvised over the changes of whatever, or just over a groove. He would cop a groove. Sometimes we would just make something up a little bit. It was pretty loose. But he did have a horn section, then really cool horn section. Ron Tooley and Melton Mustafa were playing. And who else? I can't remember. But some of those years are hard to remember. but it was a great band. I was really happy to be involved in it. And originally we just started off with piano. With the piano in the band, then it was just me for a while, just guitar playing the chords, and so. But it was really open, and then of course his soloing. One thing I've heard, and I don't even know if it's true, but it might be, is that certain things that he recorded. I mean, I saw him work some stuff, and just doing as a sideman on somebody's record. Not somebody particularly well known, but just in New York. And he would play a great solo and then I kind of go over it. Every little, in those days, Pro Tools weren't happening, you know, so he would go over it and fix everything that he needed to fix in there.
Sure.
And then he told me that, like, when he did Donna Lee, he actually wrote out the solo and played the shit out of it. Either way, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course.
But he could just, solo his ass off just spontaneously. So some of that was just the way he worked and what he wanted, as opposed to what probably all of us would be happy with without him, going over stuff and fixing it up. But and then again, if you're in a studio, you may as well use it for something.
Totally. When it was you guys doing trio, who was typically playing drums with you?
It was Kenwood Denard. Denard.
Yeah.
And Delmar Brown was playing keyboards for a while.
Yeah.
And singing something. It was beautiful. Both those cats were amazing. And Kenwood still is dead. Unfortunately, Delmar died a few years ago, about 10 years ago, something like that. And then the horn section. And Ron Tooley, Melton Mustafa, and I forget. It was Alex Foster was playing saxophone.
Yeah,
and then Jocko and myself, and after a while, Kenwood wasn't doing it, so it was just me and with the Cory, just playing the only harmonic instrument. And then who am I forgetting? I don't think anybody. I think that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was great. And Kenwood sounded amazing with Jocko. He would use different cats sometimes.
Sure.
But that was when I was on the road, it was Kenwood.
Yeah. I've seen you play trio a handful of times. One of my favorite gigs I've ever been to. I was completely mind blown. I was maybe a sophomore in college or something. I took a trip to New York and I saw a gig at the 55 bar. It was you, Richard Bona, and Antonio Sanchez, and it changed my life, dude. It was.
I'm not sure if it was Antonio, because I don't think I played with him at that point. I think the first time Now maybe it was. That's possible, but it was some other drummer. But you know who it was? Oh shit, I can't remember his name. He's from his parents are from Haiti, and he lives in badass. Oh shoot!
I swear it was Antonio. This was probably 2009.
It might have
10?
been, but I other guy. But it was 55 Bar was one of those places that were still around for a while.
Yeah,
that had all this stuff happening. You know, it was so easy to play there. It was just like, I mean, first of all, they gave me, because I found the place, actually. Me and Jeff Andrews, actually, Jeff, bass player, and he found the place. Somebody wanted, the club owner said, I want to put music there, you know, so it had been open for years, but it was mainly just people who learn drink professionally, you know. And then he started doing the music there, and then when they stopped, especially when they stopped the smoking in bars in New York, it just became a music club.
Yeah.
You know, so we began adding drum. At first it was just duo, and then we added drum. The first guy was playing chopsticks, literally brushes. And then we added sticks, and he was playing more, and you know, and we went through different drummers. I played with Adam Nussbaum a bunch, and Jeff Andrews, and actually Michael Brecker came by the gig one time and just hired the trio, you know, myself and then Kenny Kirkland was playing with Mike Brecker's band for keyboards, and then and Joey Calvarazzo plays with, when Kenny with Bing. But that place was just one of those places that there's still a few, you know, it costs and no one gets rich off playing. Yeah, I'm sure. But it's so great, you know. And that unfortunately went under during the. It was a drag.
That was sad.
But it was. Well, I'm so glad you like that gig.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because I've seen you play in different settings, and one of the most difficult settings for me to feel comfortable in is trio. I'm always torn between how much harmony should I be kind of outlining? Should I just be playing lead lines? I mean, there's all these choices of when do I play chords versus melodic lines versus ripping, what kind of tones to use, what to ask out of the rest of the band. Can you talk to me a little bit about your philosophy of trio playing as a guitar player?
Did you ever record? Do you have recordings of you playing trio?
Probably somewhere, not for a lot of years, but yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear that, man. I mean, you're a badass. You just got
thank you.
Great groove, first of all, and then I just love to hear it. But yes, you're right. It's you know, with piano you got, if it's left hand, you can the chords can be there, and then you can play lines. So guitar trio, you really have to. Well, you don't have to, but I like to try to. And most cats that play a lot of trio, harmony has to be kind of outlined with their the line.
Yeah.
So there's got to be more something around the chord tones or something, so you kind of know where you are, and everybody else knows where you are, and you're playing the song. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Having said that, you get kind of out, and sometimes with bass players, I sometimes write out double stops for my own tunes. So they're playing, because nowadays 5-string and bass. I 4-string. That's my favorite stuff. You can do whatever I write out. You can always do on the 4-string.
Yeah,
but playing standards, it's you got to kind of that balance that you're talking about is really important. Kind of outline the changes at the same time you want to get free. What I used to do is and still do sometimes when I'm playing a standard is play the tune and then vamp at the end. So it'd be one chord and we can go nuts.
Yeah.
You know? It kind of works that way. So, there's different ways of approaching it.
Yeah.
So, by the way, just so I kind of forgot the question because I was going off on something about, you were talking about Miles, the guitar and what it meant to him and what it meant to me. The guitar for him was more about rock, Hendrix.
Yeah.
And he liked Pete Cozy was in his band, and Reggie Lucas right before he retired. That was I think his last band, two guitar, and Reggie, just basically played rhythm. He was a player, and some solos, but it was rock more than Jim Hall, for instance, who I love. I think Miles probably dug him, but it wasn't what he was looking for. He had a flying V at home, to give you an idea.
Really? Miles had a flying V at home?
Yeah, he did. I never heard him play it. I don't think he could play it, but he had it. He asked me to play it one time when I was over there, and Cicely was there, and she was cooking something, and this is in his apartment. And he said, "Play, Dave. Fat Tom, play something." So I played a little bit on the, it's going up and down the neck. He said, "Hey, Cicely, look at that. Looks like a spider, don't it?"
I heard a really interesting quote from somebody. I don't remember what interview or who it was, but somebody was like, "Miles, I don't know what to play on the gig." And Miles just goes, "Man, people just like to see your fingers move fast."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, honestly, that's kind of compelling. I'm going to take, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. He had some of that going on. And then he used to dog, if you played too much, sometimes he would bitch about that. But even with John Coltrane, he used to say, "Take the horn out of your mouth," Yeah. Meanwhile, of course, Train was playing his ass off. I don't think he listened much at that point. He just said, "You got it. I'm going to play like this, and this is the way it is." And Miles, of course, he'd let it go. He just said, because he loved Train, of course.
Yeah.
But no, it was rock that he was. I mean, Hendrix. At the end of the day, that was his cat.
Yeah.
On guitar. And they were supposed to do a record, and then Miles died. Yeah, and Hendrix died. But what am I saying? He died right before. So that's why for the record. Yeah, and Hendrix died. Yeah, that would have been beautiful, man. I'm sure that somehow they would have worked that out amazingly.
Well, you brought up a topic that I think many of us as guitar players have to struggle with. And like you're saying, Miles had a certain taste for things. You're somebody who's got a lot of technical facility on the instrument. And many guitar players, you put in enough work on the instrument, it's not that hard to get pretty fast, right?
Right.
You can play fast and not say a lot. but you can play fast and say a lot. And I'm wondering, there's a lot of people that struggle with that have a lot of technical facility, but struggle with how to say something with it. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing to bring up. It's really important to try to tell a story, So I think it's oversimplified, but basically, I always try to start off slower and then get more information as it goes along, like telling a story. You say, once upon a time, something like that. It's just you starting off slow, don't get with too much at once, because then where do you go?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I always check everybody from, most of my stuff, I guess, was probably the bulk of it, whatever ideas that I kind of try to get inspired by other people or horn players, like Mike, of course, and he used to play a lot of stuff, but it was amazing. And he always was telling a story.
Yeah.
And I try to cop kind of horn line, kind of a horn kind of sound also, just the way I use 2 amps and the effects I use is really to try to make it sound kind of more vocal, like sing, like more where it's air coming through. So, because guitar is a very percussive instrument, which I love about it also. So I do both. But when I'm playing lines, I try to make them more, I pick right. And it's just one of those things that I prefer, just my own taste, to try to make it kind of more vocal.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is to try to develop a solo. You keep that in your mind and try not to just play fast for fast sake. Sometimes it's a double-edged sword. It's like a curse if you play fast and and you overuse that. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think you gotta. There's a time and place for it in the structure of a solo.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to even start lower in the range of the instrument, kind of move up higher. That I've heard you do that on stuff where it's just like it peaks right at the right time. It's just like, and that's the thing to go for. I mean, when you're improvising, you never. It's sometimes there's just moments, and the whole thing doesn't work together all the time. Because you're just spontaneously trying to compose stuff, and sometimes that's possible to do that better than at other times. But at least that's what you go for, I think.
I have a question about audiences, your interpretation of audiences, because we've both toured kind of around the world, and I've noticed that audiences in America, audiences in Europe, audiences in Asia, I guess specifically Japan, are very different. They're different types of audiences. And I have a hard time explaining it to people sometimes. Like, I don't know, the audience is different in Japan. The audience is different in Europe. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just curious from your experience. You've been touring for decades. You've seen the evolution of audience behavior and just audience reactions and everything. Tell me a little bit about your interpretation about these different audiences.
It's got a similar thing in that, people are coming up for the gig. They're looking to like something, So, but sometimes in certain places, like a little bit more reserved. People are more obviously excited, and they'll make more, they'll yell a little bit. It makes it obvious. And sometimes in certain other places, of course, it depends on the night and what kind of music you're playing and a whole bunch of things rather than where you are. But I've noticed that too. It seems like a difference in audience reaction in certain places, especially. We just played in China for a couple of weeks. And that's, it's funny. I was there a couple of years ago, and then I just came back from there recently, and it's already getting to be more, people are just getting it. So there's been going on. There's more, they're starting to have those schools where, there's 3,000 guitar players, that kind of stuff. They've got some of that going on.
Yeah.
In Beijing, I did a clinic there, and the guy said, yeah, it's a big school, and it's like 3,000 people in the whole school, and most of them are guitar players. So, and some of them are jazz players, so that's starting to really happen more. One thing that I do notice that for sure is that sometimes there are more, at least for jazz, in my experience, more opportunities in Europe and elsewhere than the States, where, of course, there's opportunities to play in the States, but the States spends more good amount of money elsewhere than than in schools teaching music and culture, and that's not the priority of a lot of high schools and public schools. And you know what I mean? The first thing cut is the arts, and because they don't have the bread. Because this is really oversimplifying, but there's a big amount of the budget of the U.S. and the taxes go to the military. So that's the way it goes. I think that, if you spend that much on that stuff, you're going to have less for other stuff.
Sure.
And certainly the arts too. But having said that, there's a ton of places to play, less than there used to be, clubs and like that, but still a ton of places to play. And there's a ton of people that love music in the States, of course.
Yeah.
But in Europe, there's more. I think that's the difference. There's more interest, and more people are kind of aware of different kinds of music, not just jazz, of course, but all kinds of music. And there's more awareness and more possibilities to check that stuff out. And it's true with the arts too, just in general.
Yeah.
It seems. But I'm glad for whoever shows up. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Sometimes played in little tiny places, and there's like the the band outnumbers the audience, and I'm playing with a trio, So
We've all been there.
yeah, we've all been.
Yeah.
And sometimes as you still go there, but some of those are the best nights.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's the way it is,
Well, you brought up your 2 amps thing, and I'm curious tone-wise. Chorus. Why the chorus? Talk to me about your decisions on tone and your commitment to it.
Yeah, because, the thing is, for me, if it works, I think any effects you use or don't use, if it works for you and it helps you get your heart out, because that's what music's about, is connecting. Hopefully, a big part of it, that's whatever you are inspired by, and whatever you want to go for musically, you try to do, but you also try to have a balance where you can connect to people.
Sure.
Miles was a genius at that,
Yeah.
like any other ways he was a genius, but that was seriously something. He always wanted to get connect with people. He didn't want to just play something that didn't have some kind of pocket in it. And he just felt it, Usually it was the bass, even if the band was soloing all at the same time in a very musical way, but somebody would hold that stuff together and groove, drums and bass. But as far as trying to figure, would you ask the question again, because I think I have.
Well, I'm just you've been
About
you've been persistent in the chorus, and I'm curious, what amps do you use? And you've committed to the chorus. Tell us your vision.
I've kind of always had that, and just not even mess with it. I figure it's not a big deal, one way or the other, kind of, except that it gives me more of that vocal thing, and it's actually a pitch change thing. Chorus doesn't. I did use a chorus pedal with Miles, but it doesn't work as well for me as what I have been using for years, which is a pitch change on this old thing that no one ever wants to, no one even knows where to find them anymore.
What is it?
But SPX 90, those SPX things, it's a multi, It's got effects, but I just use one. And somehow I can't get anybody to just make a pedal somehow, and a lot easier. But to me, it just sounds vocal. It sounds full. I'm playing a Telecaster. I'm just used to that. I could probably mess around with different guitars and see if I could get something that would also sound full sounding. But I like the way the guitar feels. And so I've been using a Tele style for a long time. Yeah. And so the pitch change thing, it's kind of similar. It fattens up the sound because it's got that quality of a chorus, but it's different, and it just sounds cool to me in terms of trying to get that vocal sound. Definitely I could probably do it in different ways, and probably should just do it at one point, just because I haven't done it, recorded. But it really works for me, and that's the thing. After a while, for me, the effects are almost it's important to the point that you feel comfortable playing your heart out. Yeah. There's so many, as there's so many variables. So I try to keep consistent. Thing you go to a studio. Sometimes there are obviously different variables there, but especially live. When you're playing live, the room, is it boomy sometimes, or it's not boomy, sometimes very dry. And so I like to keep the same kind of, whatever I can kind of keep the same, I want to try to do that, so you don't have to you don't have to kind of change everything all at once. You have some kind of something that's predictable, that you got your own sound. So people, whatever they use, I think some people don't like the sound of a pick so hard. I think Rosenwinkel is kind of trying different things to try to get it more legato. Mm-hmm. He something that I forget what it was. The last time I heard him was just recently. It was at a camp that we did, together. He was on there. I think he was using that thing that he's using now. That's kind of, it sounds more like a harmonica or something. Or no, not that, but something. You know what I mean? It wasn't a guitar sound. It wasn't with. So I think he goes back and forth.
Yeah,
but it's kind of that. I notice a lot of people trying to get, especially if you're playing lines and playing jazz. Jim Hall used to do with a little tiny amp, and really not a lot of treble. I mean, it was very. He picked very light. I remember George Benson told me one time he was playing with Jim and we're doing a duo thing together, and Jim said, "How do you do that?" And George thought, "Wow, that's cool." Jim Hall's asking me, how do I do something? He said, "Well, how do I do what?" He said, "How can you stand the sound of the pick that loud on the instrument?"
Well, George holds his pick kind of reverse. I do the same thing. It's kind of reverse grip. So the leading edge of the pick is backwards.
It's the backwards. Yeah, my wife Lainey does the same thing. My wife does the same thing.
Yeah, that's how I pick. I mean, I think it does. It plays into the sound very much so.
Totally. The pick, amazingly, I used to use a medium pick, and I'm just one of those guys, if it feels right, I just don't change it, because I'm so obsessive with that stuff. Yeah. I can drive myself and everybody else crazy.
Yeah.
That amp, you go nuts.
Yeah.
So if it works, I say don't fix it. It's okay. Yeah. But I've been trying different pick sizes. Though a few years ago, I was getting just a harder pick, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And you know what? This is really nice for me to hear, because somebody like you, who's a total legend, so incredible, your instrument, just been at it for so long, continuing to be like, you know what? I'm still trying to find the right pick.
Oh, totally, man. I mean, I'm sure you know this. The more we do this, the less you know. I mean, the universe is just, it's bigger than the universe. It's infinite.
Yeah.
So, and so the more you check out, the more you realize there's more questions, there's more try. It's like I get after all these years. It's get on a journey and you keep going. If you're the type to just keep trying different things. You know what I mean? Musically, different lines. Different. So So I like to kind of keep the new info, new ideas, and try to keep the sound kind of the same. Having said that, I'm thinking more and more to kind of experiment with that, more, since I'm getting I ain't a spring chicken anymore, and I want to try a couple of things that maybe I haven't tried.
Sure. Well, in that line, is there something you're trying to accomplish now that's different than the 80s or 90s or 2000s when you were making records? Like you just put out a great album. Like what are you trying to do now that's different than what you were doing in previous decades?
It's basically the same thing. I'm just, when I have enough tunes, I was running them by the guy who was produced the most recent record, which echoes and other songs that I really appreciate, like it. I'm always neurotic as about that. I just do it and then, hide.
Sure.
I just, and, but that was a fun one to make, although I was a nervous wreck. But Jim Beard was the producer and helped so much.
Yeah, Jim's incredible.
He was incredible, and he died a few months ago, not even a year ago, and which was so sad for some people. Playing with Steely Dan, and then he had to go home, and there was some stuff. Yeah, cancer and something I think they did wrong in the hospital, and he died of sepsis, actually. So, it's one of those really tragic stories. But he was amazing composer, amazing producer for me. I mean, just amazing. And played on all the stuff that all the keyboard stuff that I've done on records for a bunch of them. And I think with this record, well, first of all, there was, the last 7 years ago, I had this accident where I have, I'm using glue to hold the guitar pick. I broke both my arms up here and have nerve damage in my hand, so that's what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
And I'm using glue on the guitar pick since 7 years ago, and I found a great doctor at Dr. Alton Barron, who's kind of well known in some ways as a guitar player, surgeon, hand and arm specialist. He sees a whole bunch of different people, but he's also started a musicians treatment foundation. So with Elvis Costello is somebody he also helped, and some other people that did some stuff for personally, and then they kind of kicked in to help him do this musicians. If you don't have insurance, he'll hook you up with somebody, or he does the surgery for free. Wow. So so he's a great cat, and gradually 5 surgeries he helped me.
Wow.
I thought I would play again, and then he helped me. The only thing that I kind of added to it, besides just being stubborn as hell and not wanting to give up, of course, but was the wig glue. Was this glue that I put around it's very, it's for Donald Trump, for his wig, and the glue is very sticky. It's very maybe it does something to his brain also. But anyway, I use hair. I use it for to hold the guitar pick, and it works. It's very sticky, but it doesn't hurt your fingers. So I tape something around the pick, and it helps me hold the guitar pick. So
I don't think you're the only jazz guitar player using wig glue out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll move on. So I'm glad I'm gonna mark that guy's name, Alton Barron. Just in case, guitar players need to know. I mean, we need an advocate for. I mean, I had one of my guitar teachers cut his hand slicing a bagel, and he had to be an advocate for himself to the surgeon in the emergency room. Like, I am a guitar player. You have to save. Like, this is my livelihood. Please, like, this can't be a botched job. Like, of course he's in panic because his freaking hand is sliced open. But
the thing happened to me when I went to the emergency room. My hands were fine, totally fine. And then gradually, I kept telling. They sent me to a doctor, regular cat, because I figured my hands were not going to be involved. I fell like this, kind of elbows, kind of, and it was up to my bone, right? So this side I kind of messed up, and instead of doing the surgery right away, they usually like to wait. And this guy was not a hand and arm specialist. He knew I was a guitar player. They knew, but they sent me to this trauma specialist who didn't really know what he was doing. So by the time I got to the surgery, my hands was numb, and there had been some serious.
Oh, man.
And he was kind of shocked because I couldn't sign my name in. And I kept telling him, man, these digits are going, numb over the phone. I said, should we do this surgery early? Oh, no, it'll be fine after the surgery. It's going to be fine. And then I get there, I can't sign my name. He said, you were not exaggerating. So I was just kind of pissed, especially at the hospital.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. Yeah, you're right. You got to be an advocate for yourself. You got to know where to go in case you hurt your hand, because if you just leave it up to somebody else, they don't know. They don't understand the importance of it. But this cat, Alton Barron, is amazing, and has helped a lot of people just with what he knows. And he's a really great cat. So, and he's a guitar player, so he knows muscles and there's all the stuff that can go wrong, and knows how to help it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
On a lighter note,
yes,
we've all had that one sound check or that one rehearsal take that had all the magic in it. I can remember the top example for myself, but we've all been there. Like, you're at rehearsal, you're at sound check, and you run the tune, and everybody in the room has a complete magnetism to whatever just happened, and you know it was the most special, cosmic, one-of-a-kind moment ever to exist, and like nobody will ever hear it, and it was just at the sound check or the rehearsal. Can you get? I know you've had these examples. Is there any that stand out to you?
Yeah, it's happened. I can't remember when, but more than once. And that's the way it is. You know, sometimes you don't get. I mean, nowadays everybody's everything, so you probably get somewhere. But a lot in the past, and I wish somebody had been. Actually, there's very quickly. I just wanted to mention about the record that I just did. Was where Echoes and Other Songs. I was really nervous because of this accident, and it was with Christian McBride and Antonio Sanchez and Chris Potter and Jim Beard, and then 3 tunes with Dennis Chambers and Richard Bona and Bob Franceschini. And so with that cast of characters, I went, what the hell am I doing? You know, I get to the session, we're getting ready. We barely had time to rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what am I doing? I'm a nervous wreck. How can I be doing this with all these badass motherfuckers? So anyway, it worked out, and everybody was so supportive, and they just played their asses off. I mean, it's just amazing. And you'd expect those cats to play all the sound great, but it's amazing to hear it happen. Just, the way they can just absorb a piece of music and just play that shit out of it.
Yeah.
And also Jim Beard had prepared good demos, and everybody just did their homework, and so it's just amazing. But I also did this record with Harvey S., who was a bass player in New York, and they found, and I remember thinking those nights were really good. It was with Alan Dawson in Boston, a little tiny club, and I thought that stuff's gone forever, right?
Yeah.
And years later, a few years ago, we did this in 85 or something, and then a few years ago, Harvey was saying, boy, I wish we had tapes of that. And the guy he was talking, I snuck in there, and I was listening to all the sets. And there was 3 nights at a little tiny club, like the 55 bars, called 1369 Club. And he taped it with a reel-to-reel.
Wow.
And then Harvey heard it, and he went to his record company. It's called Savant Records. It's like High Note Records, subsidiary records. They put it out. It's called Going For It with Harvey S. And it's a live thing in a club. And I was really, it was one of those things where when I actually heard it, I remembered that my memory of that gig was correct. It was really special. And I'm so glad they recorded from 85. Going For It. It's just trio.
Cool.
And, it was cool. It was a real fun one. So you got one redeemed for you. Yeah, you got another W on the board. Yeah. Got lucky. Yeah.
That's great. What do you think was the hardest live experience you ever had? Or hardest gig?
There's so many. I mean, there's so many. Usually it's because of the room. The room is really rough sometimes.
Yeah.
And there are some gigs that are just everything plays into a hard gig because the music might be really difficult and the room is boomy as hell and you can't get a good sound and then you can't hear everybody else somehow because the monitors aren't right. I don't even like to use monitors because I walk around a lot.
Yeah.
And everybody's set up real close. It's a small jazz ensemble usually that I, usually quartet or now quintet because my wife is touring with us all the time. Which we kept that apart. She's got her own band. I've had my own band. And then when we said we're both reached 70 years old, we'll try to. Yeah, I wish I'd done it a lot sooner because working out great.
Good.
But anyway, those are some of the reasons. Some of the gigs are really difficult, especially the room.
Yeah,
I they ought to teach that in music schools. Just say, you learn all this stuff. You're going to sound better in your practice area, wherever you practice, but be careful because you're going to, one of the biggest things to get past and figure out a way to do the best you can with is if you get in some kind of gymnasium, or some airplane hangar or something, and you're trying to play in that kind of context. It's different. But I can't remember a particular gig that was kicked my ass because there were a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But yeah. But that's one of the reasons I use the same sound. I got
something consistent.
Yeah, something consistent. So you can kind of
nice.
The odds improve a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, it's so great to talk to you. Can you let us know what else is coming up for you? What are you excited about? You got the new album out. Tell me about what you're doing live. What do you want people to know about?
We just got back from, I was at a little guitar festival in Iceland, of all things. We came back from China, and then with my band, and then and then right away to Iceland. Me and my wife, and we played with some Icelandic guitar players.
Cool.
And his band. And Robin Ford was also on the gig, so that was fun to see him and play with him some. And now I'm going to Europe in a couple of weeks. So I'm glad I got a couple of weeks off. But then I'm going to Europe on the 24th of October for about a month. And just playing different places, and
nice.
With Dennis Chambers and playing drums, and Chris Nindoki is playing bass, great bass player from Denmark, and Bob Franceschini is playing saxophone. So that's two guys that are on this record, Dennis and Bob on this latest record, and Lainey's going to be there. She's also on the record playing goni, an African instrument, a little bit on that record. And, like that. So we're just touring, and the same thing is happening, starting to fill up for next year too. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to do this at all. And I never thought any of this stuff would happen. I played with Miles, I played with Jocko, it just was not what I was thinking. I was thinking I would be able to teach at music school, which would be great. Of course, I teaching, but the rest of this stuff is I couldn't turn it down. That's for damn sure. So one thing led. I'm very happy to be able to do what I do.
Well, that's great. We love that you're doing it, and I am such a fan of what you do. So, thank you so much for hanging with us, man.
Same with you. I watched you on the plane a couple times, so going back and forth.
Oh, nice.
And it's great stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, smoking. So, and elsewhere, I've checked you out. I want to hear some of those trio records or some kind of recording.
Yeah, I'll find something. I'll send it to you.
Great.
Give me some feedback. Yeah. There you have it. Mike Stern. It's a cool cat, man. I love the stories. I love the history. This is somebody who's been around so many amazing musicians, who is an amazing musician himself, and it's really just cool to hear just kind of how he thinks about music and just the philosophy of musicianship, business, playing the guitar, all of it. So thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe, follow, whatever the button is on the platform that you're listening to this on. I hope to see you again sometime. Hope to have you tune in. I have other wonderful podcast guests coming up, but also I have a bunch of incredible guests that I've already interviewed. Many that have grown up with similar experiences as Mike in the jazz and rock world, and also other instrumentalists. So I've learned a lot from this podcast, just asking questions and getting the wisdom from a lot of my heroes. And I hope you're getting the same. I truly mean that. So thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Peace.